I'm sending my brother money directly to his bank account in India because he's apparently too busy practicing his karaoke to go pick up cash. Thankfully, I can still send money his way.
Direct to my bank account.
Yes, I know I'm sending to your bank account. Western Union. Send it their way. Send money in-store directly to their bank account in India. Services offered by Western Union Financial Services, Inc., NMLS number 906983, or Western Union International Services, LLC, NMLS number 906985, licensed as money transmitters by the New York State Department of Financial Services. See terms for details.
All right, so get this. We're diving into your research on Halimaw Sa Wawa.
And for everyone else that translates to Monster of the River Mouth, I gotta say, when you mentioned this project, I was instantly hooked. Filipino folklore, a chilling mystery. What more could you ask for?
It's a potent blend, that's for sure. This story really grabbed my attention because it blends modern elements like these tech-savvy kids with the ancient traditions of the Tawak. What do you think this says about how Filipino culture views the old ways versus the new?
It's like they're not afraid to have them coexist.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. We're talking about what seems to be an ongoing mystery series, right? Chapters released online, official chapter summaries. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle alongside the story itself. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, can you give us a little context on Tawak? They pop up a lot in your research.
Absolutely. In Filipino folklore, a Tawak is an individual with a deep, almost mystical connection to snakes. Imagine being able to communicate with them, control them. Some believe they even share a spiritual bond. It's a powerful image that taps into primal fears and the mysteries of the natural world.
Okay, so not your average neighbor. And in this story, we've got this group of young investigators armed with their cameras and recorders, diving headfirst into a mystery that seems to revolve around a Tawak and this creature, this Halimaw.
And that's where things get really interesting. You have this clash between the modern and the ancient, the rational and the supernatural. These kids are using technology to try and understand something that might be beyond our usual comprehension.
It's like they're trying to capture a ghost on camera. But speaking of capturing things, the story kicks off with a fisherman's death, right? And not just any death. It's one that has the whole community buzzing. It's like something straight out of a creature feature. You got to wonder, is there a connection to any existing folklore? I mean, could something have actually attacked Mang Edring?
Well, there are stories of monstrous creatures in Filipino folklore, but the claw marks could also tie into the concept of yusog that we see in Filipino culture.
Okay, back up for a second, yusog. You mentioned this earlier. Refresh my memory.
It's a fascinating belief. Essentially, it's the idea that a person, often unknowingly, can inflict a kind of unintentional curse or bad luck on someone else. This is often associated with physical ailments, particularly in children, but the idea of unexplained marks or illnesses ties into the sense unease and potential supernatural influence.
So it's like bad vibes, but with a physical manifestation. That's spooky. And speaking of spooky, we can't forget about the ballet tree. This thing is like a character in itself. Every time it's mentioned in the story, the tension just ramps up a notch.
And with good reason. In Filipino folklore, ballet trees are more than just trees. They're often seen as dwelling places for spirits, sometimes malevolent, sometimes benevolent. They represent this kind of liminal space, a crossroads between the world we see and the spirit world.
Okay, now I'm getting chills. And it's no coincidence that the story keeps bringing us back to this tree. There's that scene where Joe, the tech whiz of the group, is filming around the ballet tree at night. He thinks he captures something moving within the roots. You described it as a shadowy figure in your notes.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
It's a brilliant use of foreshadowing, creating suspense, while also playing on those existing cultural beliefs. We're left wondering, did Joe actually capture something supernatural? Or is it a trick of the light playing on their fears? Either way, it adds another layer of intrigue.
It's like the story is messing with our heads. But that's what keeps us coming back for more. And just when we think the mystery couldn't get any deeper, we meet Lolo Yute, a Tawak, living in the shadow of this ominous ballet tree. It's like he walks straight out of a legend.
He's definitely a pivotal figure, someone who bridges the gap between the world of folklore and the reality of the investigation. Remember, Lolo Yute isn't just a storyteller. He's directly connected to the very elements that make this case so unsettling.
And he agrees to help the teens, even though he seems to know more than he lets on, especially when it comes to the ballet tree. Then we get that scene in his hut.
The candle ritual. That's where things take a very interesting turn.
Okay, hold on. The ballet tree appears in the wax. That's not just creepy. It feels symbolic. Do you think Lolo used this ritual to confirm his suspicions about the tree, or was he genuinely surprised?
That's the million-dollar question. In many cultures, candle rituals are used for divination, for seeking guidance or answers from the spiritual realm. The shapes, the wax forms, are believed to hold symbolic meaning. So it's not just a random coincidence, it's like the ritual itself is trying to tell them something.
Yeah, the look on his face when it happens, like he wasn't expecting that at all.
It makes you wonder what he does know about that tree, right? Like he's got this whole other level of knowledge.
Exactly. So I've got this mystery on our hands, a mysterious creature, these teenagers running around with their cameras and recorders, a tawak, living in the shadow of this creepy tree. And then the ritual seems to point right at the tree, like it's a suspect in a lineup.
It really makes you think about how we see the world, right? The kids are looking for proof for something they can see and touch. But then there's this whole other layer of understanding, this intuition and spiritual knowledge that Lolo Yu has.
It's like two completely different ways of approaching the unknown.
And the story doesn't pick sides. It lets both of those perspectives exist side by side, which I think is what makes it so interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where do we go from here? What are your final thoughts as we wrap up this deep dive?
I'd say pay close attention to the details, those seemingly insignificant moments. They often hold the key to unlocking the bigger picture.
I like that. And you know what? Thinking back to those missing crosses we talked about earlier, could they be connected to the ballet tree somehow? It just feels like there's something there.
Yeah, that is a question worth pondering. And isn't that what makes these deep dives so much fun? There's always something more to uncover to think about.
That's the truth. So to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What are your theories? What do you think is going on in Halimaw Sa Wawa? Let us know, because we're all in this together. Until next time, happy investigating.